Eric in Phoenix, Arizona. What's going on?
Hey, Dr. John. So my wife and I just had a baby a couple months ago.
Congratulations.
And my brother, thanks. My brother wants to come visit us for Thanksgiving, but he's had a history of some drug issues, and so we're having trouble deciding whether we enforce a boundary or maybe don't enforce a boundary and try to save the relationship.
Okay, tell me about the drug issues first.
So it's mostly marijuana that we know of, but
Okay.
a lot of this is secondhand, right? So we don't know everything he's doing. We just know that it's been going on for 5 or 6 years, and it's just hard to talk about it. He never wants to talk about it when I try to bring it up. It always kind of gets heated.
What is it when you say it gets heated? It kind of gets heated. What does that mean?
Well, we have different opinions about, you could say politically about whether marijuana is good or not.
Sure.
But I've seen how it doesn't help him much. It does, and maybe he just uses too much of it, And so, if we just avoid that subject. But he knows that we've got this boundary that, hey, you need to pass a clean drug test if you want to come see your nephew. And we're at the point where we're not sure if he's going to pass it. And so
are you guys giving him the drug test? Or is he on probation?
The plan was to have my parents. Yeah, so my parents have been giving him drug tests, and so they were going to give it to him before he came out, with them, because he's still living at home right now.
Why are they giving him drug tests?
Well, they've set boundaries for him too, saying if you don't pass a drug test, you're kicked out of the house, And they've done that a couple times, but they always let him back in. Okay. And so that's kind of the other hard thing is we want to set a firm boundary because we feel like he's never had that.
So it sounds like there's two issues here. One is you are feeling like you need to lean in and become the parent that your parents are not being for your brother. That's number one. Number two is you are trying to determine whether there's a safety issue with your new child. Is that fair?
Right. And honestly, it's not a safety issue so much with him. Mm-hmm. I don't believe he's going to be dangerous or violent or anything. We just but we want to stick true to our word because we want that to mean something too, Yeah. We don't want to say we're going to do something and then don't do it.
I get that. And so when you say you gave this word, right, you put something, you drew a line, here's my values, which you're allowed to have your values, right? Did you tell him that? Did y'all have a conversation about it? How did he get that information?
We told him probably over a year ago before we were even pregnant because we had some miscarriages in the past. And so we had told him, hey, this is going to be a thing for the future that you're going to think about. And we reminded him again during the pregnancy. And that was just over text message, but he was like, yep, okay. And it's been weird because he's been talking more. He doesn't talk to me directly about it. Okay. I hear stuff secondhand through my parents.
Yeah. So how old are you, man? How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay. How old is he?
22.
Okay. So it's time for you to be a grown-up, and I'm not saying that, I'm not making fun of you, I'm just saying you're about to level up now, okay? You're a dad, you're a husband, you're in it now, okay? And there's these moments when young men level up. Young women do it too, but I'm just talking to you right now. So you're going to level up, and that means you are absolutely 100% through having any sort of meaningful conversation whatsoever to anybody in your life on text message. Cool? Text message can be about what time are y'all showing up tonight? Hey, my flight got delayed. I'll be there at 6. That stuff's cool. But when you're going to lay down value statements like you cannot see this baby if you are not passing a drug test, that's an in-person conversation. And if he doesn't want to have it, you can tell him, I've got some stuff that I need to talk to you about my new baby and my small family. And when you're ready to be a grown-up and have that conversation, give me a call. Okay, and he's going to have to level up too. But number one, this is not a conversation for text message. Number two, I want you and your wife to sit down and make some clear, what is the purpose of this value, this value judgment? Like I said, do you think that somebody smoking weed or who smoked weed a few days ago who's going to come and then see their new nephew or their new niece is going to harm the child or hurt the child? If that's what you think and believe and you've got some wisdom, I've never seen that, but I also know that everybody's different, okay? If that's what your case, if you're worried about the safety of your baby, that's a no quarter thing. Nobody gets a vote on the safety of your kid. You draw hard boundaries to where you think they should be, and you hold firm to them. If a year ago you had, like, you were leaning into trying to support your parents and saying, yeah, and not only you're not going to get to live with mom and dad, but you're not going to be able to see your new niece, and you sent that via text message, I'm going to tell you you've got full permission to circle back to your brother, have a grown-up brother-to-brother conversation about, man, how are you doing? And we're getting ready to be in the holidays. Mom and dad have asked you to quit smoking, and they have said this is part of their rules that for you to live in their house. You keep failing them. What's going on, bro? Because you cannot bring drugs into my house. You can't, because whatever state we live in, they're illegal. I don't want them here. It's my house. I get to make that rule. What I don't want you to do, man, Eric, is I don't want you to use your kid as for ransom for your brother. I don't want you to use a powerful relationship between nephew or niece and an uncle as a behavior manipulation tool, because that's never going to work. It's not going to help him get sober, and that's not going to help you feel better. And so it sounds like there's something deeper here. If I'm leaning into it, it sounds like you are frustrated with your parents, you're frustrated with your brother, and you are trying to take this on. Is that fair, or am I out to lunch on that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a piece of it that's very true there. I think the other part of the boundary that we set was also for my wife's brothers. There's a couple, one in particular that has probably some more serious drug issues that would be more of a safety concern.
Yep.
And so I think that we're trying to set a boundary. We're saying, hey, we're enforcing this fairly on both sides.
Relationships aren't fair.
Yeah.
Relationships aren't fair. And don't feel that pressure, right? If one has a conviction for selling cocaine and the other is just out of being a teenager and got in trouble for smoking marijuana, those are two different planets, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And it does make it easier on you guys just to do a blanket, big square fence around the house. And again, if these are your values, dude, go for it. There is not going to be an easy way to enforce these boundaries. And what I mean by easy, there's not going to be a way that people don't walk away from your fence that you build with their hearts broken. That's life. Mm-hmm. And if addiction was cured as easy as just saying, well, then you can't do this until you're done, we would have no addiction problems. But addiction is often a connection issue. It's a relationship issue. And so instead of putting up roadblocks, now it doesn't have to be your kid. Hear me say that. But if you really want to help your brother, deepen your relationship with him. Connect with him. Reach out to him. Talk to him once a week, twice a week via phone. Go visit him. You all set up camping trips together. And you lean into that relationship. Then you will earn the currency to say, hey, what's really going on? And he might say, you had the same mom and dad as me. You know exactly what's going on. Or you know about this. Or you know some stuff that I never told you. And it may be that he chooses smoking weed and you choose to work 90 hours a week. You're both running. Yours is just socially acceptable and his isn't, right? Or it may be that he's a punk 22-year-old who just wants to get high, doesn't care what other people say, and he needs to be slapped upside the head and not living at mom and dad's house and not mooching free meals off holidays, right? Only you know that. But I don't think you have to draw a comparison between a safety issue and a 22-year-old who may smoke weed a week before he comes to see you. Those seem like radically different things to me. And you just have to make peace with the fact that you have a kid now, and every boundary you draw from here on out is going to be hard. Somebody's going to hit up against that boundary with their face and their forehead and their feet and their fists and their knees and their entire body's trying to knock those boundaries over, and you're going to have to hold firm to them. You and your wife are. And so what I would circle back, here's how I would approach this moving forward. I would circle back, Eric, and I would have a conversation with your wife. Conversation number one is, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? Is all of this stuff because we don't want that one brother she has who's a violent offender or who makes dangerous decisions with drugs come into our house for the holidays? Because if it's so, call it what it is. Don't punish other family members for one person's idiocracy or one person's illness or one person's struggle. Don't do that. So get with your wife and say, what are we really trying to accomplish? Are we trying to have a drug-free house? If so, Sweet. Send that notice to everybody. Call them in person. Hey, you cannot come here unless you pass a drug test or walk in my house. Okay? I don't know anybody doing that, but you are free to do that, okay? If you want to help co-parent your brother, he's 22, he's a grown man, stop doing that. Be his brother. Love him. Lean into him. Lean into him. My brother and I, who I love more than life itself, we've had some great conversations over the year. I gave him some behavioral mandates at one point. That wasn't super helpful, but I was young and thought I was, I'll be there, right? I said, you can do these things, you can't do these things, or I'm going to show up and then you have to deal with me or whatever. And I don't know if that was helpful. Probably not. Threatening someone you love is usually not the best way, but I also loved him, and I was trying to love him the best way I could. So if you back out, Eric, what are you really trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, I mean, I want to circle up with my wife, like you said, but I do think that it's more of that safety for the other brother, and I definitely want to. I don't want to hold this boundary. I would rather have him come. I'd rather have him meet his nephew, because that's the other thing is he is by far like the most excited. Like he cried when he found out we were pregnant. No one else, like my parents didn't even cry. Like he's excited. And so I really want to nurture that relationship. And
does your wife like him?
Build a relationship. Oh yeah. Well, he can be annoying, but that's a brother.
Man, you should see. You talk to my brother and sister. I'm the most annoying guy there is, man. So yeah. When it comes to him, you haven't told me anything that would say, no, you can't be here. You can full-fledged say, you will not come into my house. Hi. I have told that to people that I love. Right? You can't come to my house.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
Hi, you can't come to my house with drugs. You got to be safe when you come to my house. But you're welcome here. I love that you want to deepen that relationship with him. Man, that's noble. That's noble. Let your parents be parents and you be the brother. And now that you're both in your 20s, you're both grown-ups now. You're both on your way to becoming wise grown men. Seek some other men in your life that can speak into this relationship. You be the guy that goes first. Lean into your brother. Love him the best that you know how. And then when you don't, say, what are you missing, man? How can I be a better brother? Have that conversation. How's that for vulnerability, right? And yeah, talk to your wife about what your values are and how you're going to rally around your kid. And never be too big. This is something I want to say to everybody. Never be too big to say, I drew a really hard boundary a year ago, and a year later, that was dumb. I overshot that one, right? Like we all know that person that when they have their first kid, you go into their house and they're spraying you down with Lysol and making you wash your hands. This is pre-COVID, of course, and take your shoes off and leave them out in the yard. We all know those people. And then a year later, they're like, dude, yeah, whatever. And they're picking the pacifier out of the dog food bowl and just shoving it back in the kid's mouth. Don't be too big to say, I drew a line. It was wrong. That's the world we're in right now with politics and with media, right? I said it 4 years ago, and if I go back and change my mind because I've got new data, I got new science, I got new relational information, I can't change my mind because everybody's nuts. The sign of a evolving, wise mind is that they hold their values tightly and their beliefs loosely. And they are not afraid to say, I'm sorry. They're not afraid to say, man, I screwed that up. I want to go again. So good for you, Eric. Lean into that brother. But start with your wife. Start with a values conversation.